I count on one thing. The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Yes, I will. I count on one thing. The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. I choose to praise, glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Speak to me when the silence steals my voice. You understand me. You understand me. come to me in the valley of unknowns. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought you were. I believe, but help my unbelief. You understand me. You understand me. And help me reach the faith that's underneath. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought you were. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. And I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought you were, yeah. Bigger than I thought you Just give it to him. I will rest in the Father's hands. Come on. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. Father's hands. I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiation with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than I thought you were. Aren't you glad that we can throw anything that we're facing, all our cares, we can just throw them in front of God. And God's going to pick them up and he's going to take them, because no matter what we're facing that we think might be impossible, it doesn't scare him. Amen. We taught you guys a new song last week. And in case you missed it, we're going to go through it again here, the chorus, and sing it again. It's a pretty awesome song, so let's get on your feet here. Here's how the chorus goes. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. When all I see is a battle, you see my victory. When all I see is a mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, God, the battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is a cross, God, you see the empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. And
Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
Thanks for being with us this morning, and we're glad that you're here, and we trust that you've already been blessed. Okay, so we're in this series we introduced last week called Navigating Uncertainty, and so this will be the second installment. This will be part 2 of that series, and last time we said that over the course of the last, really just over a year now. During the course of the last several months, 12, 13, 14 months, these have been the most challenging year of our lives. There's just so much going on, and we've been challenged in so many different directions, and there's so many different angles to all the stuff that's going on. It's been challenging for us financially, physically, emotionally. It's challenged relationships. It's been a mental challenge. And so there's a sense now that we're kind of to the point where we're just trying to pick up all the pieces over the last year and kind of put them all together and move forward the best way we can. But in the meantime, we said last week, as part of that, not only are we trying to move ourselves forward, but there are also people in our lives who are looking to us as an example. They're looking to us to help them move forward as well. Family members, maybe employees, friends, neighbors. We've all got those people who actually are looking. They look to us for guidance. They look to us for inspiration. They look to us for hope. And so here's what we know. Leading under normal circumstances is tough enough, but leading under the circumstances that we've been given and we've been dealing with, that's even tougher. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, not at all. And so we said last week, I won't tell if you won't, but those people who are looking to us, they have no idea how unprepared we really feel. They really don't. And so last time we said, we understand. I don't have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. We don't always know what to do. And so there's a sense in which we're kind of all just we're flying by the seat of our pants. We're kind of making it up as we go along a little bit. I mean, there's no point in kidding ourselves. We're in uncharted waters, uncharted territory. And so uncertainty makes leadership uncertain. But uncertainty, whether we like it or not, it is a permanent part of life. There are always going to be uncertain things in life. And uncertainty is what makes leadership important. Uncertainty is a part of the leadership equation. Uncertainty is why the world needs leaders. And so in this series, we're talking about essentials for leading through times of uncertainty, through times of disruption. And I said last week, I think these things are non-negotiable. I don't think they're negotiable. Last week we mentioned that leadership is a stewardship, that leadership is something that's on loan. It's an opportunity. It's a responsibility that we have. And the second part of that is, we said last week that leadership, it's a stewardship and it's temporary, that we're not always going to have the influence that we have at the moment. Okay, that the clock is ticking on our influence, and that eventually time will run out on our influence and on our authority. That eventually we'll either give it away or we'll lose it. Someone will take it away. It'll be taken away. And we talked about that last week. And then the third part of that equation last week we said was that we are accountable. We're accountable to God, of course, but every leader, every person who has influence, we are accountable to God and to the people that we are having influence on. And so we're accountable to how we manage that influence and how we lead. And so let's look today at the first of the three non-negotiables for leading in times of uncertainty. So we'll talk about one today and we'll hit another one next week. Let me say, first of all, every leader exercises authority on two levels. One level is very immediate and it's very apparent, and it's what we're going to call our positional authority. It's the authority that someone has because of the position that they're in or the position that they hold. Positional authority, it's like a father and a mother. Parents have a certain authority because of the position that they're in. By the fact that we're the parents, we have authority, okay? That's where you come down to that thing, well, why do I have to? Because I'm the dad, that's why I said so, right? So that's an example. An office manager or an owner of a business. A business owner has a certain amount of authority because they are in the position of being the owner, so they get to say so. They're the ones that have the authority there. A supervisor at work, maybe. Supervisor, someone who's a head of a crew chief or something like that at work, maybe. They have, because of that position, they have authority there. They have influence on what takes place. A teacher in the classroom, a police officer. We can come up with all kinds of examples of people who have authority because of the position that they hold. Okay? And so those people, we pay attention to them because they have a position or they play a role in our lives because of the position. Now, the second level of authority has nothing to do with position, okay? It has everything to do with influence. In fact, the people who have the most influence in our lives often have very little or no actual official authority over us. There's just something that gives them influence in our lives. They have authority that extends beyond simply having a title, okay? And so what we're going to call that a moral authority. Because there's an alignment, and so with moral authority, there's an alignment between what that person says and what they actually do, their actions. There's an alignment between what they expect of us and what they expect of themselves. Those things align, okay? So moral authority is a credibility that they've earned simply by walking out their talk. It's an alignment between who they claim to be, who they say they are, and who we actually discover that they are. And so moral authority, it equates to influence. Give you an example. Church, we get done here this morning, and we're going out. You're going out to head out to your car, and I see you out there, and I say goodbye, and you tell me, man, you tell me what a great job I did, and how great the service was, and all those kinds of things, right? And anyway, I say, hey, how about this? Hey, listen, would you like to go to lunch today? How about if I buy your lunch today? And you're like, wow, yeah, I'd be in for that. Okay, and I say, tell you what, why don't you go on down to the restaurant, and I got to button things up here. I'm gonna make sure the lights are off and everything's shut down, the doors are locked, and all those kinds of things. I'll button up things here. Why don't you go on down to the restaurant, get us a table, and I'll be down there. I'll meet you down there in just a few minutes. Oh yeah, that sounds great. Okay, and so you do. You take off. You get in your car. You go to the restaurant. You get a table. And you're expecting me, I'm going to be there in a minute or two, in a few minutes, and you waiting, and I'm not there, and I don't show up, and you're thinking, well, man, it's been a while. How long does it take to shut off some lights and lock the door? So you send me, I'm going to send a text message. Hey, dude, where you at? And you send that text message, and you wait, and no reply. I wonder if something's going on. I wonder if something's wrong. Maybe I'll make a phone call. So you dial me up, no answer. So you're thinking, what's going on here? So you wait a little while longer, and finally you get to the point where you're just like, all right, man, I'm hungry. I'm going to order. I'm just going to order and eat. Or you just get frustrated. I'm going home. I've stayed here long enough. It's been too long. And so that's all. You get tired of waiting, okay? So now, here's what's happened. I said that I was going to do one thing, and what? Didn't follow through. I did something else. So when there's a difference between what someone says they're going to do and what they actually do, what happens? There's a loss of respect for that person. You just lost some respect for me because I didn't show up and do what I didn't show up to buy your lunch. I said I was going to be there. I said I was going to buy your lunch. You were looking forward to it. Just time of, and I just stood you up. I didn't show up. So as a result, you have now lost some respect for me because I didn't do what I said I was going to do. That is so huge. That's so huge. And I know whenever I was growing up, that was one of the things that was just pounded into me by my parents. You've got to be a man of your word. You've got to do what you say you're going to do. You can't say one thing and do something else. And it seems like that's somewhat lost in our world today because we have a generation that they don't want to commit to anything because something better might come along. And so it's just a tough thing. So when we lose respect for that person, what happens? You've now lost some respect for me because I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And so as a result now, what little influence I may have had on you is now been harmed. right? When we lose respect for someone, they lose their influence in our life. Because listen, we're more easily influenced by the people that we respect. And moral authority creates respect. I mean, let's face it. When someone lacks moral authority, it's kind of hard to hear what they're saying. Not because maybe of what they're saying, but because of who's saying it. The bottom line is this. Positional authority provides a person who has influence. It provides their influence is within a specific context for a limited time. A teacher at school has authority in a specific context that's at school during school hours and for a limited time. And so when you see that teacher on a weekend, they don't really have authority over you because that's not the context for their authority. Okay? Makes sense, right? And so a positional authority, your boss at work has authority over you while you're at work and you're doing your stuff at work, but if you see him on the weekend, you're not at work anymore, he can't tell you what to do, right? And so it's limited. That's true about any positional authority. That's true of a supervisor at work, maybe a coach on a team. Yeah, at practice, the coach has got authority, but after that, okay, true of a teacher, a boss. We can think of a lot of examples. But so it's limited. But that's not the case with moral authority. Moral authority provides a person with influence in a variety of contexts and an indefinite period of time. Moral authority is the authority that we get from walking our walk, and our walk lines up with our talk, what we're saying. And that's important, and it's always important. But in times of uncertainty and in times of disruption, it's more important than ever. So in the Old Testament, we're told about a leader who has moral authority, and that moral authority gave him tremendous influence during a time of national instability. And the man's name was Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a Jewish exile living in Persia. 5th century BC. We talked a little bit about this the other day. Nehemiah, at the time, he was a personal servant to King Artaxerxes I of Persia. At this time, Israel, the nation of Israel, had not had their independence for over 250 years. About 130 years before our story that we're going to look at today takes place, the Jews were living in Babylon. We talked about that recently. And so when Cyrus the Great overthrew and took over Babylon, he told the Jewish people, he said, look, you guys, you're free to go. You don't have to stay here. As a matter of fact, he encouraged them, go home if you want to. That's fine. I'm not here to hold you captive. That's not what I'm about. And so a lot of them did actually go back to Jerusalem. They went back to their homeland. But a lot of them chose to stay. I mean, think about it. They'd been there 2 or 3 generations now. This is the only home that they'd ever known. This is comfortable to them. They're not under slavery or anything like that. They really didn't have any connections to their homeland. So for a lot of them, you know what? I mean, we got nothing to go to if we go home. We're pretty good shape here. We like it here. It's all we've ever known. We're just going to stay. So a lot of people chose to remain. And so Nehemiah and his family was one of those groups. They chose to just stay. They chose to remain in what was Babylon, but is now Persia. And so the families that did return and went back to Jerusalem, they had a terrible time. I mean, there was no infrastructure. The walls of the city had been torn down. It was an economic mess. It was militarily they were struggling, and it was that way for a long time. And so when Nebuchadnezzar had invaded, and we talked about that, He had torn down the walls of Jerusalem some 100 years, over 100 years prior to this, and the walls were still tore down. And so that was a problem because the neighbors, Israel's neighboring countries, they took advantage of that weakness. They couldn't really defend themselves. And so the neighbors did everything they could to keep the nation of Israel suppressed because they didn't want them to become a superpower like they were at one time. And so all of this bothered Nehemiah. And actually, we're told that his heart was broken over the plight of his people back in the homeland. And so he began to pray for an opportunity to do something about that. He really would like to go back and see if he could help them out. And so finally he asked the king, he explains the situation. He says, I'd really like to go back and see if we could get the walls of the city rebuilt. I could try to help do some of that stuff. Would you allow me to do that? Would it be okay? And it touched the king's heart so much so that he said, yeah, he let him go back. I want you to go back, do all you can. As a matter of fact, I'll also, not only will I grant your request, I'm going to help you fund it. Which was pretty cool. And so he gives Nehemiah an official title. He's known as the governor of Judah. And so Nehemiah goes back, and we're kind of familiar with that story, most of us. Long story short, he rallies the people. He gets them motivated. They go to work on the wall. They build the walls back, and the walls were replaced and built back in a short amount of time, a record short amount of time. It was just amazing how quickly it happened, and he turned that all around. And Nehemiah, in the process, he gains a measure of moral authority through all this, because what he does, he doesn't just go and bark orders and direct and all that. He jumps in and he gets his hands dirty. He gets right alongside everybody else. He's working on the wall. He's building the walls. He's laying blocks. He's doing the physical work. He's doing the physical labor. He's doing it all right alongside of the rest of them. And so because of that, he gained a measure of moral authority. He didn't expect others to do what he wasn't willing to do himself. And so after Nehemiah's been there for a few years, he discovered something and they get the walls built, he discovers something that's actually more dangerous than the broken down walls were. He uncovers the root cause of the city's economic troubles. He finds out that before he got there, wealthy landowners and merchants from neighboring countries around Judah, they had come in and they had loaned money to the Jews at crazy high interest rates, astronomical interest rates. And so this had destroyed the economy. This is what caused all their economic issues. And so Nehemiah shows up and he realizes this. And so what's he do? He pays off all of those loans. All of those people that were in loan to those others, he takes it and with his own money, he pays off all those loans. Now suddenly, the people of the city who had been in debt, now they're free from that debt and now they have money to spend, which jumpstarts the economy. Good thing, right? But then what happens is the wealthy Jews start doing the same thing that the outsiders had done. They start making loans to some of the lesser off, the poor Jews. High interest loans, requiring all kinds of things as collateral. They would require them to put up their farm or their home, anything of value, even to the point of they would require, some of them had even put up their family, their wives and their kids and their farm, animals, everything they had as collateral for these loans. And then when they couldn't pay them, they would foreclose on the farms, and it got to the point where pretty much this elite group, they had control of all of the grain prices. And so when all this comes to Nehemiah's attention, he's furious. I mean, he's livid. Here's what he writes. Nehemiah chapter 5, verse 6. When I heard their outcry and these charges, I was very angry. I pondered them in my mind and then accused the nobles and the officials. I told them, you are charging your own people interest. And so I called together a large meeting to deal with them and said, as far as possible, we have brought back our fellow Jews who were sold to the Gentiles. Now you are selling your own people, only for them to be sold back to us. They kept quiet because they could find nothing to say. So here Nehemiah is. He'd spent a fortune getting everybody out of their debt. Okay, they were in slavery to debt. They were slaves to debt. He'd paid for that with his own money, and now they're right back where they were prior, and so he's going to have to do it again. Verse 9. So I continued, Nehemiah says, what you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of our God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? I mean, don't you realize what you've done? I mean, our neighbors are laughing at us. We're the laughing stock of the region. We're not even keeping our own laws. I mean, we're undermining our own economy. We're undermining our own security. But he's not done. Verse 10. I and my brothers and my men are also lending the people money and grain. But let us stop charging interest. According to their laws, it was fine for Jewish people to, and they were actually even encouraged to help those who are down and out, to help them out by loaning them money. And it was fine, and it was an encouragement to get them back on their feet. But the deal was they weren't to charge interest. It was to be an interest-free deal. And so, certainly they weren't allowed to take important property like a home or a farm, certainly not people for collateral, right? And so these wealthy Jews, they're guilty of all of that. Verse 11, Nehemiah, he points his finger and he says, give back to them immediately their fields, vineyards, olive groves, and houses, and also the interest you're charging them. 1% of the money, grain, new wine, and olive oil. And how did they respond when he tells them this? They say, we will give it back, they said, and we will not demand anything more from them. We will do as you say. Now, Nehemiah, he's not dumb. He wasn't born yesterday. He doesn't trust them. Verse 13. I also shook out the folds of my robe and said, in this way may God shake out of their house and possessions anyone who does not keep his promise. And the people did as they had promised. Just like that. They return everything they'd stolen. They cancel out all the loans. And we hear that and we think, well, that's kind of idealistic. Well, yeah, I guess that's what I'd expect in a Bible story, right? That's what I'd expect. And if you think that, that's kind of right. But when we know the backstory, then their response to give that all back makes a little more sense. The reason that Nehemiah's words carried so much weight was the way that he himself had behaved, how he had conducted himself for the last 12 years that he's been there with them. So, in other words, Nehemiah's reputation preceded him, and it stood in stark contrast to the previous governors. Verse 14, here's why Nehemiah's words carried so much weight. Moreover, from the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, until his 32nd year, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate the food allotted to the governor. Now, this is important because Nehemiah, as the governor, he had a legal right to collect taxes for personal income. That's how he could set the tax rate. He could collect as much tax money as he wanted to for his own personal use, for his personal income. Okay? Plus, he was guaranteed a free allotment of food from all the farmers in the region. That was just part of what he got for being the governor, okay? And in 12 years of being there, not once, not one single time, had he exercised that entitlement. Everything that he did, he paid for out of his own pocket. Again, this is in stark contrast to all the other governors that they'd had prior. Verse 15. But the early governors, those preceding me, placed a heavy burden on the people and took 40 shekels of silver from them in addition to food and wine. Their assistants also lorded it over the people. But out of reverence for God, I did not act like that. Instead, I devoted myself to the work on this wall. All my men were assembled there for the work. We did not acquire any land. Land ownership was a big deal. If you owned land, that was a sign of power. Nehemiah says, look, I didn't come in here and buy up a bunch of land or acquire a bunch of land or get it in any other way. I didn't go down that road. I didn't do any of that either. I didn't try to make myself wealthy and rich at the expense of the people. He had done exactly what he came to do. He came to rebuild the wall and restore the economy. Verse 18. I never demanded the food allotted to the governor because the demands were heavy on these people. And so it had been 12 years of Nehemiah walking out his talk. And that added weight to his words. 12 years of expecting of himself what he expected of others. 12 years of doing that, and that gave him influence that he otherwise would not have had. Now, the life that he'd lived, the decisions that he'd made, his concern for people, his lack of entitlement, all of that shamed the nobles into submission. That's good leadership. That's the kind of leader that we would like to follow. That's the kind of leader we all should aspire to be. And it all goes back to this one idea of moral authority. And it's a tricky thing because it takes moral authority. It was 12 years for Nehemiah. It takes years. It takes a long time of walking your talk to acquire that influence, that moral authority. But you know what? It only takes one unguarded moment to lose it. It only takes one incident. It only takes one thing. We're always one decision away, one negative word away, one overreaction in a negative way. We're only one instance away from damaging the thing that gives us influence. Moral authority, it's always important, but it's essential during times of uncertainty and times of disruption. Now, here's why. Because the people who are looking to us for guidance, for inspiration, the ones we have influence over, they want to know that they can trust us. And trust is always earned. And trust always equates to influence. Think about this. We don't respect our parents because of what they required us to do necessarily. Our respect, or maybe our lack of respect, is determined by what did our parents require of themselves, right? I mean, what about the life they lived? If as a parent, if I'm saying to my kids, don't do this, whatever you do, don't do this. You better not do this. This is something you better not do. I better not find out you're doing it. You better not do this. This is not a good thing. You shouldn't do this. This will cause you harm. It's a bad thing for you to be doing. And the whole time I'm doing it, right? And so our respect or our lack of respect is determined by what did our parents require of themselves. And the same is true for us, for you and for me. Because the saying is true. Our lives, our actions speak louder than our words. Now, with that in mind, I want to give you, real quick, okay? I want to give you 3 gauges to keep your eye on that will help protect your influence and will help guard our moral authority. 3 areas that may indicate that we're on the verge of losing what is virtually impossible to regain once we lose it. So what we have to do, number one, we have to pay close attention to your response to authority. Your internal response to authority and your outward, your external response to authority. How do we respond to authority? A lot of people have lost their moral authority, even their entire reputation, by how they responded to authority. And that's why I say that if you consider yourself too important to be under, then you're probably too immature to be over. Number 2, second thing, is your sense of entitlement. Listen to the excuses that you make to justify your own behavior. And we all do it. I make excuses to justify my own behavior that I wouldn't approve of in other people. Imagine someone that you respect doing or saying what it is that you're doing or saying. Here's some advice. Never do or say anything that you wouldn't want people to find out about. Never do or say anything that you would not want people to find out about. Now, here's the thing about entitlement. Entitlement is a slippery slope. You know, maybe Nehemiah, he'd been governor 12 years. You know, he could have said, rightfully, you know, Nehemiah, you deserve to have some income. You deserve to, it's okay. You could collect a little bit of taxes. You deserve to have some land. You've been there 12 years. That's okay. You deserve some of those things, and rightfully so. But here's the thing. If we take what we think we deserve, and if that undermines or affects our influence and our moral authority, maybe we should think twice before taking it. Because the odds are, whatever it is you think you deserve, the day may come that you would be willing to return it to get back the influence and the respect that you gave up to get it. Example. You all know I umpire baseball. Done it for years. I had an athletic director that came to me and he said, "Hey, look at these nice polo shirts we got." Nice polo shirt, and it had their school logo on it, blah, blah, blah. I said, "I got one for you. Here you go. You want one of these? I got it for you." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And then I thought, wait a minute. That's going to affect me. I shouldn't take that because that's going to look like, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It won't look good for me to be wearing a polo shirt, and it was a nice one, with that school's logo on it, when people know that I officiate that school's games. I umpire their ball games. That would have affected my influence. That would have affected my moral authority. And so I had to say, I appreciate it, but you know what? I don't need to do that. And so we have to think twice sometimes before taking something that maybe we deserve and we want, but is it going to affect our moral authority? Is it going to affect our influence? And so we have to be careful with that. The third thing to pay attention to is the imaginary conversations that we have with ourselves. And I have these a lot, and all the time, and I know you do too. Those expressions of frustration, those expressions of anger with people, because You know me when I'm driving. There's a lot of knuckleheads out there on the road that's driving that shouldn't be, and I have to watch myself because I get frustrated with them and I get angry with them, and I got to be careful with my attitude there, because if an overreaction in frustration or anger or saying the wrong thing at the wrong place at the wrong time, it only takes one time for that to leak out, for us to lose our credibility, maybe forever. And saying I'm sorry, that doesn't erase anyone's memory. And whenever we do mess up, we need to fess up. When we make a mistake, we just got to own it quickly. Okay? That's the way we build moral authority, right? We got to say, you know what? I just blew it. I just messed up. I don't know what happened. I just made a mistake. I'm sorry. Because here's the deal. We trust people who make mistakes because guess what? We all make mistakes, right? We're not perfect. We're going to mess up. We're all going to make mistakes. So we trust people who make mistakes. We don't trust people that make excuses. Because when they're making excuses, they mess up, and instead of saying, I blew it, I messed up, they try to make an excuse for why they messed up. And we all know that when they're doing that, they're doing that with their own best interest, their own self-interest in mind. And so we trust people who make mistakes. We don't trust people who make excuses. Moral authority, it's essential during times of disruption and during times of uncertainty. Now, to be clear, moral authority it's not essential for leadership. You can lead without moral authority. Okay, you can manage, you can parent, you can do that, but you can't be a leader worth following without it. And you won't maintain your influence without it. Now, we said the other day, and never forget this, people are defined by their final chapter, not necessarily their finest chapter. Because people are celebrated and people are remembered for their moral authority, not their positional authority. So, here's what I'd like to do. On your way out today, I'm going to give you a little card that's going to have a little prayer on it. And I'm going to encourage you to use that as a reminder to pray it every day. Pray this prayer every day for yourself and for your family, okay? And it simply goes like this. Heavenly Father, give me the wisdom to know what's right and the courage to do what's right, even when it costs me. Your accomplishments make your name known, but your character, your moral authority, that will determine what people associate with your name. So we need to guard it at all costs. And we'll pick up there next time, part 3, Navigating Uncertainty. Would you all stand? Father, we thank you, God, that, Lord, you gave us examples in your word like Nehemiah. Father, that he wasn't about Nehemiah, Father. He was about doing what's right. And Lord, we've often heard it said that if we don't care who gets the credit, a lot more gets done. And so, Father, I just ask that, God, as we walk through these next days, Father, as we walk, Father, that, Lord, the people who are looking to us for influence, Lord, would you give us the ability, Father, to have the ability to walk out our talk. God, that we would be what we say we would be. Father, that would be preeminent in our hearts and in our minds. That, God, we don't want to let that slip. Father, we want to walk. We want to be a people. Hey, if he says he'll do it, he'll be there. He'll do it. If he gave you his word, he'll follow through. Doesn't mean there won't be times with extenuating circumstances pop up at the last minute, or I get caught by a train and I'm late, or whatever. But Lord, to the best of our ability, we're going to be true to our word, Father, because we want to be trustworthy people. We want to have trust equates to influence. So God, we want to be people, Lord, that we can trust. And God, we want you to be able to trust us. And so, Father, we thank you for that. Father, I just ask that you just bless the people, Father. Bless everyone that's here. Bless their families. Lord, I just ask that, God, you would just cause us to be more like you as you mold us into more like Jesus. And we thank you for it.
So great, Jesus, in all things. I've seen a glimpse of your heart a billion years. Still I'll be singing. How can I praise you enough? How can I praise you enough? You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. Creation calls all to the Savior. We are alive for your praise in earth and sky. No one is higher. Our God wonders you reign. Our God wonders you reign. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. Not to us, but to your name, we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name, we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name, we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name, we lift up all praise. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares.